And hello, everyone. Good morning. This fine Saturday morning here in the Chicago area. Eric Willowhite and Luke Stanzik with you here on another PrimeTime Sports Weekend Edition. Luke, we got a very buttoned-down show today. I think we found our groove in terms of narrowing our at least our subject matter. Of course, then when we dive into each subject matter, we go all over the place. But I think we've found a little conciseness to it. That makes for good conversation. So on today's show, obviously, we're going to talk about that big White Sox victory over the Tampa Bay Rays last night. There was a lot of drama in that game. So we'll talk about that. The exciting come from behind victory for the White Sox there. And then we're going to dive heavy into the Bears. There's another Bears preseason game today happening at noon, and we have a lot of topics to talk about in relation to that, especially with the return of Mitch Trubisky, who's going to play probably a lot in this second preseason game for the Buffalo Bills. So old friend alert there coming to Soldier Field. But Luke, that White Sox game last night was something else. Again, looks like they had everything in control. Then some bullpen things happened, or as I used to refer to the White Sox bullpen as the blowpen, BLOWPEN. And hopefully we're past those times. But, I guess every fan base goes through that. Like, hey, they got a game in the bag, and then they turn it over to the bullpen. Next thing you know, it's tied or you're losing. But the Sox were able to recover in dramatic fashion with Tim Anderson leading the way.
Yeah, and it was a roller coaster of a game to say the least. And I was like, I was at a golf outing all day. So then I got back and then caught up until like the 8th, and then we went and ran to the grocery store really quick. So I paused it again and then came back and caught up. So I was like roller coastering the roller coaster. Because when I paused it the first time was right after Kimbrel got taken out. So I was like, oh, boy, this is going to blow it again. And then I come back and then see the whole ending, which was awesome. But it was wild. It was a wild game for sure. And, I got a couple of quick thoughts. Number one, the bottom line is Greg Kimbrel needs to get his head out of his you-know-what. Like, that's just, this is not – and I texted you this. This is not what we traded for. His numbers – I was looking before the show, his numbers in terms of ERA plus and all kind of the metrics that normalize everything for everyone, his numbers say he has basically been Cody Hoyer, White Sox Cody Hoyer since the trade. So as of right now, we basically traded Cody Hoyer and Madrigal for Cody Hoyer.
Yeah.
So that he needs to get better. And I don't want to hear the 8th inning or any of this stuff as the excuse for him. Like, this guy's going to the Hall of Fame. Pitch like you're going to the Hall of Fame. Like, bottom line, do better. Like, I'm getting tired of the Kimbrel thing. Like, I really am.
So, well, it sounds like you're tired of the Kimbrel apologists, although I do want to go back to something that Tony La Russa said when they first acquired Kimbrel, which was they were going to mix and match, that it wasn't going to be a set Kimbrel is the 8th inning guy and then Hendricks is the 9th inning guy. So, to me, from what La Russa said and then what's been practiced are two different things. Now, since he was acquired, if Tony sat down with both of them and said, like, these are going to be the roles, then you're right. Kimbrel needs to, coin the phrase nut up or shut up, right? It's like, do your role, do what you're paid for, and go from there. And yes, there is psychology, 8th inning versus 9th inning, but he's a Hall of Famer. He's a veteran pitcher. I'm facing batters. And usually when he's coming in, it is high leverage. 8th inning is still high leverage just as much as the 9th inning is. It may be a different level of adrenaline, but it's high leverage. And when he was coming in, he was getting ready to face the tough part of the Rays order. So you got to be ready to perform in those situations.
It is high leverage. Yeah, it's the 8th inning in a 4-2 game against the best team in the American League record-wise, Tampa.
Right. Right.
If that's not high leverage, and I don't know what to tell you. Like, right. He just needs to do better. Like, and I still think he will. Like, I still think this is going to get figured out. He's too good a pitcher to not figure this out. The stuff is still there. Like, that's not the problem. So I think he will do better.
They still have a month and a half to figure it out, too.
Yeah. The other gripe I have from – and it sounds like they lost. We haven't opened the show. The other gripe I have after last night is with my man Tony, and I hope this isn't a preview of the playoffs. That's why I'm worried about this particular thing. I hope this isn't a preview of the playoffs. Last night he was at 90 pitches and Giolito was cruising. Like, he made the one mistake early, gave up the home run to Choi. And then after that, he had the triple, which probably should have been a double, but Eloy's in the left and doesn't know how to take an angle on a ball. So there's that. That one probably doesn't score if Eloy takes the right angle, because I think he got a sac fly and a ground out after that or something. I can't remember. But anyway, point being, he was cruising. The team doesn't have a day off until Monday, like next Monday. So why can't we have him start the inning? And the way he was pitching, I would bet that he probably does pretty well. Have him go one more inning, throw 10, 15 more pitches, and then if the bullpen gets in trouble, then you bring the bullpen in. Like, now it was like we won the game yesterday, but we may have lost part of the war, because now the bullpen's burnt out for the next probably 2 days, because we used like 5 guys last night when you might have only used 1. Like, you might have only used Hendricks last night if you leave Giolito in. And I know we're trying to limit pitch counts, but they have a ton of off days coming up after this stretch. They have the whole month of September till they'll probably coast in the playoffs. Then you can worry about pitch counts. Like, I want to beat Tampa. I want to, like, make sure we get home field. Like, so, this is not the series to me to put the foot off the brakes on the starters.
I don't think – no. I completely disagree with you on this one. I think in that 7th inning that Giolito maxed out. He saved what he had in his tank for that 7th inning, because he was throwing his hardest stuff in that 7th inning to muster through that 7th inning. I don't think he had much left. So I think the reason why he was throwing harder in that inning was because he knew, this is kind of the end of the line. So that's when I think you're getting lost in pitch count. Well, he's got to be able to go 105, 110. No, it's like sometimes it's optics and things like that. And Tony has to make those decisions of when it's time to pull the plug. The other reason is, despite of what happened with Kimbrel, there's a reason why you traded for Kimbrel.
No, that's really true. Number one, you expect Kimbrel to not stink.
Right.
Which has happened. Number two, to your point, I think, he could have been maybe running out of gas, and that's why he kind of reared back in the 7th. But they also could have told him, regardless, hey, this is your last inning. And that's why he left it all on the line. Maybe he had more left. He was like, all right, well, if you told me this is it, I'm going to go out there and just chuck it. So, I mean, I'm not going to assume that that's the case. I just, in a playoff game, and I know this is mid-August, in a playoff game, especially if Kimbrel's still pitching this way in October, I would hope that we just don't automatically go to Kimbrel the 8th because it's the 8th, and we would let someone who's as good as Gio or Lynn, get that extra batter or 2 in the 8th to try to take the pen a little bit. That's just what I thought.
Well,
I'm looking at the next week and a half for this team, and I see they got 6 more games against really good teams before they play the Iowa Cubs for 3. But you're going to need the bullpen a lot these next 6 days. And I'm looking at, the first day of the 6 days, we use 5 pitchers. So and then, one of the starts is Lopez. One of the starts is Rodon, who's probably not going to be able to go more than 5, I would think.
Right.
So I'm just, I feel like there's going to be some games here this week where one of our starters is going to have to eat it when they don't have it because of what they did yesterday. So
that'll probably be today. It's the Keuchel game today.
Yeah,
so that's probably what it is. But here's the other thing I want to say, and hello, Jackie. Thanks for checking in. And Sandra.
He's got a lineup that she wants to share with us.
All right, we'll get into that. And yes, Luke did say the Iowa Cubs, which that's not too far off from the truth. No, they're not going to do a 6-man rotation. Matter of fact, I think I heard some news today that Ronaldo Lopez, Raylo, as we like to call him, is headed back to the bullpen when Rodon comes back, because they have Sox have a lot more off days in the month of September unless they get into rainout situations. So So that's the situation there. But let's get back to what you're talking about there in terms of Tony La Russa and managing starters as a bullpen. The other thing with that is look at how 2021 has played out for Lucas Giolito. That is a guy that is very leaky with the home run ball, right? And in a tight game like that, especially with some of the hitters on that Tampa Bay lineup, that's not a guy right now, regardless that he was having a good outing, that I trust to like make him plow through and stretch it out and get to the eighth. He's, it's a what have you done for me lately type of environment. And he rebounded from an awful 2018 to a great 2019, very good 2020. He hasn't been the same Lucas Giolito this year. He's been very on and off, and if we're being honest, he's probably their third or fourth best starter this year based on performance. Yes, he was having a great ball game last night. He looked locked in, but I also thought there was the chance that if you try and have him go through like the third or fourth time in the lineup against the Rays, that trouble could be a brewing. And again, you do have the bullpen arms, regardless that they didn't perform or all didn't perform last night. However, Crochet did perform, as did Liam Hendricks. So, they were able to finish that one out. The other thing I hate about this, Luke, we haven't even talked about Tim Anderson. We're like 13 minutes into the show. We haven't said anything about Tim Anderson. How about that performance?
Yeah, let's get to the good now.
Yeah,
Tim was. This shows you our expectations is how your fandom changes when your team is good.
Right.
Like they won last night and we're mad because we didn't like the way it happened. That's how you know you're really good. So, but anyway, TA was just incredible. That was a star performance last night. You had 4 runs as a leadoff hitter.
Right.
Everyone likes to talk about, Anderson's, didn't take enough pitches to be a leadoff hitter. Scored 4 times. Okay, you're doing your job as leadoff man. You scored 4 times.
Right.
3 hits. Hit the game-tying home run in the 9th. Had the go-ahead hit in the 11th. And made a slide at home plate that, honestly, after he went home, he kind of looked at McEwing and did this, like he wasn't supposed to go.
Yeah.
But he made, his instincts and his talent and his athleticism took over, and he made one of the best slides of the year for the Sox to ensure that run, which ended up being a really key run. Like his fingerprints were all over every aspect of the game last night, and it was truly one of the better individual games that I think a guy on this team had this year. And it's not a coincidence it happened versus Tampa, who again, Kevin Cash, manager of the Rays, did not bat him in the All-Star game. And Anderson, after the game.
That's right.
Anderson, after the All-Star game, said something like, I'll make sure I have a little something for him when we play Tampa.
I forgot about that.
I have zero doubts that this is not happenstance and that he was like, I'm going to show this team. And then went out there and just balled out, which was awesome to see. Awesome to see.
Well, that's something else. And then I was watching the post-game show, which is always must-see TV with Ozzie and Chuck, but obviously Ozzie driving that. Ozzie was talking about TA's instincts. And it's like you see the physical skills, you see his leadership skills, but that game yesterday was always also about his instincts. You talked about that slide at home plate and be able to get in there and do that. The other thing, it wasn't as big because it was like the insurance run was when Abreu hit that chopper in the 10th inning and where he was. And as soon as that ball was in the air, he measured like how high that was in and he was off to the races there. So he got a good secondary lead. And then as soon as that ball was bounced off the turf and in the air, and then away he goes. And then the only play was at first base. So, doing those things. And then 9th inning, leading off, looking for a ball to drive with a 3-2 count. 10th inning, with a runner on second, 3-2 count, getting a ball that he can put in play somewhere to, at minimum, move the runner, and he winds up singling it into right field. So what he did was he carried the team on his back yesterday with that type of performance. And so it's the physical package, it's the leadership, it's the swag, and then it's his baseball smarts and knowing what you need to do in the moment. Like everything. And Tony La Russa even said it after the game. If people want to know why, I forget the exact words, but paraphrasing, why he's special and why he's good as good, all I have to do is look at yesterday's game. And he's right.
Yeah. No, it's one of those things where he didn't have the instincts he has now when he first came up. I mean, remember this guy whose number one sport was basketball until he got to college. So this is a guy who has acquired the instincts over time, and you've seen him grow every single year. He gets better.
Right.
It may not be the stat, his statistical hitting year was 2019, but that doesn't, just because he hasn't hit 330, so it doesn't mean he hasn't gotten better. He has become a better player every year. Last year, I thought the defense got a lot better. This year, the defense has continued to improve, and he's become smarter. He's stealing bases, he's stealing runs like he did last night, and now he's just clutch. Now he's just a clutch player. And the number one thing people love to point to this, and I texted you this yesterday. These people all of a sudden are really quiet this year. They're really loud, 19 and 20. 2021, all of a sudden they're really quiet. People love to go, oh, his BABIP is high. He's getting lucky. For those of you who don't know what BABIP is, it's batting average balls in play. That means when you hit the ball, every time it's basically your batting average whenever the ball is hit. So if it's really high, that means the ball's falling in a lot. People think you're lucky. Anderson was toward the top of the league the last 2 years in BABIP. So the haters out there like to say, oh, his BABIP is high, he's going to regress. Well, the flip side of that is typically the better players in baseball always have high BABIPs. So like your Trouts, your Sotos, all those guys typically are up there with having a high BABIP. This is now the third year in a row Anderson has a high BABIP, but he's sustaining it.
That's 3 years of luck, Luke. I don't know what you're talking about.
So maybe this is who he is, right?
Right.
And the thing about Anderson that's different from him as a hitter, he's not as good as Trout or Soto. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But you cannot defend. He uses every part of the diamond. He can pull the ball. He can hit it up the middle. He can hit it. We know he can go the opposite way. So you can't really shift him, or there isn't really a good way to pitch to him right now, to be honest. Because he's so well-rounded as a hitter now.
Yeah.
That of course those metrics are going to be higher because he can do all those things. So because you can't defend him. So at this point, I don't know how you can not watch Tim Anderson and not think he is a great, great ball player. He is one of the better ball players in the MLB. I don't know where he ranks. I'm not going to get into any of that nonsense because that would become first take on this show. We're yelling. But he's a great ball player.
Wrong, Luke. You're wrong.
He's a great ball player. He's a great ball player. He's one of the best shortstops in baseball. I don't know where he ranks, but he's one of the best shortstops in baseball, and I'm pumped that he is the face of the White Sox, and last night showed why.
He took the team on his shoulders last night without a doubt, and we're very lucky to have him in this town, and as White Sox fans, we're very lucky to have him. If you would have told me his first couple years in the league that this would be the player he turned into, I would say, I'm not so sure about that. I thought he'd be like a Marcus Semien type or something like that, but with a little more athletic skills. But man, he has just proven, even though he picked up baseball late, that he continues to learn, he continues to grow as a player. And you just envision more things to come with him in addition to what he's always bringing right now. All right, last thing I want to talk about before we get into Jackie's lineup, which I definitely want to dive into that, is this, something special's happening on the south side, Luke. Wow, that win like last night, and then you throw that in with the Field of Dreams game. Something special's got to be happening there with the White Sox. First of all, that is just White Sox, rose-colored glasses, pie-in-the-sky talk.
It is cliche.
Every team that's in playoff contention right now that are within shot, but those definitely that are already in the playoffs right now have had moments like last night for their own teams where you can say something special is really happening with the Rays. I mean, but players come and go, but they're still there. So the Rays are performing well. Look at the Yankees. If you're a Yankees fan, and then this big turnaround where they have the best record in baseball since the All-Star break and even a little bit further than that, you got Yankee fans believing, something special's happening now.
Yeah. Have they lost since the Field of Dreams game?
I don't think,
they won 7 in a row.
No, they haven't. They're like 9-1 in their last 10. So, I mean, it's definitely impressive what they're doing. I do think, though, they're in for a market correction, but definitely things have tightened up in the AL East and the wild card race. So now it's Boston, it's Oakland, and it's the Yankees. And then Oakland is still battling Houston for the division lead there. That one's closer. And if the Sox have a good series here in Tampa, there's a chance that the Yankees could be knocking on the door of the AL East. So a lot of things are in play with this series. But the point I'm trying to make is, what was it? The Seattle Mariners won, 115 games in 2001? Is that right? Wasn't that the record?
Yeah.
How many people in Seattle were saying, hey, something special's going on there in Seattle? And then they didn't even make it to the World Series. So it's like baseball is a marathon, and special games happen over the course of a 162-game season. So we got to pump the brakes on something special is happening with the White Sox, because you can say that for the Rays, you can say that for the Yankees, you can say that for the Red Sox and Houston and Oakland, and then over in the National League, things going on there. The Reds are they're actually in the wild card position now. Now they may not be saying, oh, well, we're definitely NL favorites, but Atlanta's turned things around. The Giants got to have something special going on, right?
Yeah.
So it's just slow it down. It's a 162-game season, and then you get into the playoffs, and then the next thing you know, you could be knocked out in the first round. Or if you're one of those two teams that have to play in that wild card, one-game play-in game, essentially, your season's over after one game. You fight, and you have these special games that happen, and then you get knocked out in that first playoff game. So I know it's perspective, and it usually these kind of things happen for teams that haven't been in playoff contention for a while, but it's like you got to stop this, because once you get into the playoffs, it's all about pitching and timely hitting and defense. That's all it's about. And I don't care how special your season's been. If your starting pitcher in game one of that playoff series just is in the tank, then there goes your something special's going on.
Well, and I'll admit, in the moment, in some of these moments, I've been guilty of that a little bit. So I will stand up and say I've been guilty of that. But in general, I totally agree with you. I think it kind of happens, and then you step back the next day and be like, okay, well, this team still has this fault, this flaw, this flaw, and this flaw. And,
right.
I'll never forget. I think it was one of the years the White Sox were just terrible with 13, 14, one of those years, and the Indians walked off versus them like 8 times, and they went like 16-2 versus the Sox, and they were below 500 versus the rest of baseball. I don't know if you remember this.
Yeah.
And the last walk-off was like Jambi homer. It was in like late December, Jambi to walk-off homer. And their announcer, my dad loves the Indians announcer. I can't stand him. As he's coming home, he's like, if you don't think something special is going on in Cleveland. and I'm just like,
said no one ever.
I'm like, what? That they could beat the Sox? They're going to lose 100 games. And sure enough, they went to the wild card game and got like rocked 9-1 by Tampa. And I'm like, you're not playing the White Sox in a wild card game anymore. But
anyway. You're totally right. I'm not saying don't take enjoyment out of individual games. That I will forever remember that Field of Dreams game as something special. I will remember last night's game as the TA game, also the Craig Kimbrell affair, but more so for the TA game. So there are games within a season that stand out more than others, but it doesn't mean something special is going on. It just means that your team's pretty good and you're winning some ball games, and good teams win ball games and come from behind fashion or in special fashion, and there's a lot of drama, and that's great. But when the playoffs start, I know it's a cliche, but throw the records out the window. Everyone's 0-0.
The one thing I will say about this team, though, that I think is a little special, more so than other good teams I remember, aside from maybe 05, but of course, aside from 05, is this team's ability to deal with adversity and deal with in-game something terrible happening, and then the next half inning, it's like there's no effect. Like last night, the Kimball thing had no effect on them. None.
Right.
And that happens so many times with this team. I never feel like this team is done, ever. Like more in past years. Even I remember 08. The White Sox were a good team in 08, right? They went to the playoffs. They won the division. 08, that whole season, all it felt like was they were sitting around waiting for someone to hit a 3-run homer. That's all it was.
Yeah.
This team, it's like they can win the game anyway. They can win 9-8. They can win 1-0. They can. Some nights they can shut you down with their bullpen. Didn't happen all that often recently, but my point is they can win a lot of different ways. And so because of that, I feel like they know that, and they never feel like they're out of a game. Where I don't know if every good team in baseball can say that. Like the Yankees, if the Yankees don't score 5 runs, I don't think the Yankees feel like they could win because their pitching is awful.
Right.
Like if the Brewers don't get locked down pitching, I don't think the Brewers can feel like they could win because their offense isn't as great. The White Sox go in anyway. So that is the one thing I will say, though. I think their ability to deal with adversity is a big plus and is a special trait because of how they've done it so far. Like they got off to the start with Brian Goodwin hit second every day for like 3 months.
Right.
And so it's just that's the special trait about them that I will say.
And he was a late addition too.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah. All right, let's get into the lineup here. So, Sandra, living in Tampa, I think their marketing department is terrible. It's a shame. Yeah, they only had about 8,000 there, and I'm sure there were a lot of White Sox fans among those 8,000.
Dick Vitale was there. You know that.
Hey, baby, I'm right by TLR here. All right, that's my horrible Dickie Vitale. All right, let's look. All right, Jackie. You're going to cut off my face in this graphic, but we're going to put it up there anyways. All right. But actually, that probably improves the show, so I'm all about it. Whatever improves the show. All right. By the time the playoffs come around, I think this should be our batting order. Anderson leading off, Robert batting second, Moncada batting third, Abreu fourth, Jimenez fifth, Grandal sixth, Vaughn seventh, Engel right field eighth, Hernandez at second, ninth. So the big change, first of all, the order in here, I'm almost spot on with what she's saying. I think to maximize Moncada, you put him back in that 3-hole and Abreu in the 4-hole, because then I think when things are going well with Moncada, it was when Abreu was in the 4-hole. And now that Eloy is back, having him behind Abreu, I think that's the way to go there. So I actually do like this lineup. And then Robert batting second, Grandal in that spot, Vaughn. The only thing is the Vaughn Engel discussion here in terms of Vaughn being the DH and Engel in right field. Defensively, I agree. The only qualifier I would say to this, Jackie, and I'll let you chime in on this as well, obviously, Luke, because we're co-hosts. Engel's health. Like, what is his health going to be come playoff time? We hope he's in good enough shape to play, but this is like the 3rd time he's been on the shelf this year. So it's something to be concerned about. So if his health is not in play, then are you putting Goodwin out there in right and keeping Vaughn at the DH? Is that what you want to do, or do we want to put Vaughn out in right field? So I don't know. What are your thoughts, Luke?
Well, a couple things here that I like it for the most part. And I agree with what you're saying about Moncada. When he was better this year, he was hitting 3rd. But I don't want Eloy hitting this lower than 4. Eloy's just too dynamic right now. He's just too good a hitter. Like, Robert hitting 2 needs to stay. Like, that needs to happen yesterday. I'm glad he's done that the last 2 games. Mm-hmm. Tony's got like an Ozzie and Sunday lineup out today. So if you haven't seen it yet, close your eyes when you look at it. But Robert hitting 2 on a daily basis, I think, needs to happen.
Yep.
I like Moncada in the 5 hole where he's been. I think that's a good spot for him. I think I think having him sandwiched in between Jimenez and the Grandal takes pressure off him a little bit. I also think Vaughn following Moncada Grandal is going to be great for him as a young hitter because both of those guys are very patient. He's going to see a lot of pitches non-deck circle. So, I think if Anderson, Robert, Abreu, Jimenez, Moncada, I would like a lot more. Also, in terms of like the positioning, Eloy, when it comes down to it in the playoffs, Eloy needs to DH. Like he just has to. That needs to happen. Vaughn is better in left than Eloy is. I know Eloy wants to play the outfield, and that's fine. And you can do that every here and now in the regular season. But this isn't, Little League or Men's League Baseball in Elgin where we can just kind of pick our positions and go play them. Like, that's not – he needs to DH. Like, he cost him a run last night in left field because he took a bad angle on the ball. Like, he needs – and that's going to happen once a week with this guy. Like, we all know that's a fact, right?
Right.
So Vaughn needs to be the left fielder in the playoffs. Eloy needs to be DH in the playoffs. Eloy needs to, and I love Eloy, but Eloy needs to just accept that and deal with that come playoff time, you're going to be DHing. If he plays left in the regular season a couple times a week, I got no problem with that. Like, let's do that. But when it comes time for the playoffs, he needs to be DHing. Like, done, period, cut and dry. And I think you and I both agree with that. Like, I've just seen enough. And also, people talk about the numbers and all that when he DHs compared to when he's in left. All I know is the other day, one of his 2 homer games, he DH'd. So, like, I think that's overblown. So, anyway, but, I would move Moncada up for sure. I mean, I would move Moncada. I would flip Moncada to 5. Kind of like Mark kind of agreed with me there. But other than that, I think it's great. I think that looked like good. Hernandez down in the lineup, I think, is something that kind of needs to
I agree with that. Let me try and do share screen here. Hang on a second. Oh, that's not working. I will take that off immediately. That did not go well. So, all right, let me take off the chat overlay then. Yeah, so let's
To respond to Mark, yes, go back. We did break down all those decisions by TLR when we opened the show.
Yeah.
So you can go back into that.
Yeah, and I'm not putting Eloy in the 3rd spot. I don't like that. I like him being behind Abreu.
I like Abreu 3, Eloy 4. I like, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I could. Let's put it this way: it's first world problems. I'd be okay with putting Moncada back in the 3 hole, Abreu 4, and then Eloy 5. But if it's Abreu 4, 3. Eloy 4 and Moncada 5, that's fine too. Let's put it this way. I don't think we're going to suffer for anything if it's in that order, but I kind of agree with Jackie's lineup there, but I also agree with you from the DH standpoint that it has to be Eloy at DH. But I don't think, the longer this plays out the rest of the season, I'm curious if Tony would actually make that move.
But and the other part of that though is strategical. Like that means if you DH Eloy, if you play Eloy in left, you take him out for defense probably in the 7th.
Yeah.
You may lose an at bat for him.
Right.
Because you have his bat in the lineup the entire time. Like that's the other part about it too is strategical advantage. I love Vaughn more than maybe anybody, but I'd rather have Eloy bat than Vaughn 10 times out of 10. Like let's be real. At this point in time, I'd rather have Lloyd bat than Andrew Vaughn.
Yeah.
So, but the other thought really quick, what if we did Moncada 2, Abreu 3, Lloyd 4, Robert 5? That's my other thought.
Moncada's been so moved around the lineup, but I kind of like Robert sitting in that 2 hole right now. Again, if Moncada was moved back up to 2, I don't think the Sox lineup is going to change that much if it's Moncada 2 or Robert 2. Moncada 3 or Abreu 3, right?
We're rearranging penthouse suites at the Ritz-Carlton right now.
We are. Like, I mean, it's like all we're worried about and what we've been concerned about all season long is getting everyone healthy and then having all of these guys ready to go. And so, having them all here and healthy, getting Grandal back, hopefully getting Engel back healthy, then you have everything to go. And then Hernandez in the 9 hole is where he should stay. He does strike out too much. I know Jason talked about that for a little more for my liking. I think this is how the lineup should be. It's something, again, Jackie's, and again, I'll flash it up there again. Thought it was a pretty good lineup. But there's definitely things you could tweak around. But regardless if it looks like this or what I was thinking or what Luke was thinking, the bottom line is, you're just rearranging deck chairs, and all the deck chairs are high end, right?
Yeah. And they're also not on the Titanic.
I should
the
say
nicest cruise ship, unsinkable cruise ship possible.
Great question, Sandra. Yeah, we are.
What's going to happen? But my answer to that question is I don't really care, as bad as it sounds.
But I do. Like, for example, I do not want to see him on the fight. Like when Engel comes back, what the obvious move is Danny Mendick's back with the team, right? But Billy Hamilton has to come back at some point, in which Jason was wondering about. Adam Engel's got to come back.
The groin he's got.
Right. So, what's going to happen there with Jake Lamb? Now, what they could do, and what they're probably going to do, Sandra, is they're going to stretch this out until September 1st when they can expand the rosters 2 additional players. Then they don't have to make a tough decision. The only decision they have to make is make sure everyone who's on the team is on the 40-man roster, and I don't think they're going to be in a position where someone's going to not be in that situation. So you could probably see like a phantom injury or something to stretch this out until September 1st. And then when you can add the 2 additional players, then Jake Lamb's going to be there till the end of the year. Billy Hamilton's going to be there to the end of the year. Brian Goodwin. And then it comes down to, okay, what is your playoff roster going to look like? And what is your playoff 26 going to look like? And correct me if I'm wrong, Luke, they can change that series to series, right?
I think so. They can change after series.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Remember, a special season going on here.
Yeah. So, but they could change that series to series. It doesn't have to be a big thing with they have to lock it in right before the playoffs start. They could change that series to series. Yes.
That's a big question mark.
My short answer is the bullpen. That's my short answer to that question.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that.
Bullpen does what I'm pretty confident in the lineup. I'm pretty confident in the rotation. Bullpen does what they're supposed to do. I think this team will win the World Series. They don't, then they won't. That's short answer to the question. Is the bullpen for me.
Oh, a spot in the garage. Yeah, you're not wrong, Jason. You're not wrong. All right. Hey, this was great White Sox conversation. I want to thank everyone for chiming in on that. We do have to get, though, to the beloved there, Luke. We said we talked 15 minutes of White Sox and then devote the rest of the show to the Bears. But the White Sox are obviously they're the team of the now, so we had to talk about it. But let's get in to the Bears. And Mark, we'll finish things off. He does agree the bullpen back of the rotation outside of Lynn and Giolito, a little shaky. Lynn's a little I'm not sure.
I think it's just Giolito's a little shaky.
Yeah, he is. Right. We did talk about that. And you're right. Let's talk about Mitch, Mark. Oh, my God. So let's get into it with the Bears. First up, Bears. Justin Fields living up to the hype. I'm going to put on the chat overlay because I believe we're going to get some comments about that. What say you?
I mean, obviously, the first game, Justin Fields lived up to the hype and then some. We didn't really talk about his game on the show because we were on before they played last week. But that was as natural a quarterback as I've seen in a Bear uniform in a while. Of course, it's preseason. Of course, he's playing twos and all that. All those caveats apply. But I will say he exuded confidence more so than I remember Mitch ever doing, even in a preseason game or even when he was playing well. He's got this air about him when he's on the field, right? Like it's kind of he's just calm and collected. And that was the most impressive part to me. Yes, it's a preseason game, but it's his first NFL snaps, and there wasn't any sort of like issue or nerves or anything. Like he was just fully in control the entire time. And they're not game planning for him and all of that stuff. And I totally agree. And we're going to see that happen at some point. But I don't know how you couldn't sit back during that game and be ultra impressed with how he looked, the skill set, the accuracy and all of that stuff. I thought he was fantastic, and hopefully we see him continue to do that and continue to start to see him maybe working with ones and whatnot whenever Nagy deems it his time.
Yeah, no, I mean, this season is going to be all about the Justin Fields coronation, inauguration, whatever you want to talk about. And it's the timing of it. Like, when will that happen? And whether it should be the first game or not, the quarterback battle, and we'll get into that for a little bit as well. But it's all about him. And in the so far, he has been living up to the hype, but obviously it's only been one preseason game. Now he's going to get another chance to do it in this game. That third game, I'm sure he's going to play some. I don't know how much. I don't know if that's going to be the Nick Foles Bowl in that third game, which, that could be scary. But it's a preseason game, so it really doesn't matter. But I do believe the decision has already been made that it is going to be Andy Dalton starting no matter what happens here in the second preseason game and what happens the rest of unless barring injury. And I don't want to wish an injury on Andy Dalton. I don't think Justin Fields is going to be starting. So then it's what happens during the regular season, and then at what point would Justin Fields be put in the driver's seat? And that's a big unknown because that's going to be a game-to-game, week-to-week scenario. But early on, he's definitely lived up to the hype because that's all we're really talking about. He's lived up to the hype since he was drafted. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think in terms of the who plays conversation, which I guess we can kind of get into here, I think, and Mark always says this, and I agree with him more than I lead on sometimes. Let's give him a hard time. But
I don't agree with him on Gio being, hey, he's fixed. Calm down there, Skippy.
But come, whatever happens, whether he plays week 1 or week 17 or week 2 of 2022, whenever he gets in there, if Justin Fields has what it takes to be a great NFL quarterback, he will be a great NFL quarterback, regardless of when he plays.
Yep.
Patrick Mahomes was going to be a great NFL quarterback, whether he played week 2 in his rookie season or week, when he actually got in there, which was week 1 of 2018. Like, may his path been a little different? Would he probably have been really good in 17? Probably not. He probably would struggle a little bit, but he was going to be a great NFL quarterback. So I think whether Fields plays week 1 or week 17, I think he will. If he ultimately will be a great NFL quarterback, he's going to be that. I don't think the Bears are going to ruin him. I don't think so. Where you can ruin quarterbacks is when you change them, put them in 9 systems in 9 years and stuff like that.
Yes.
Which, by all accounts, regardless of what national people are saying, which I still don't understand where this narrative is coming from after they went out and drafted a young quarterback, unless they go 0-17, the Bears are not going to fire Nagy. It's not going to happen. So they're not going to change the system on him. He's going to be playing quarterback in Nagy's system for the next, for the foreseeable future. So if Justin Fields can play football, he's going to be good. If he can't play football, he's not. That's just what I think, and that's what I believe. So if they deem him the best quarterback week 1, if Matt Nagy thinks he is better than Andy Dalton week 1, then he should play. And I don't care about, a lot of people are saying we're worried about the line. We want to protect him in the line and all that. We don't want to put him behind a crash course dummies on the offensive line. I understand that. But then my question is, when do we put him out there? Because then I feel like we're waiting for the perfect situation to play him, when in reality, when is the situation ever going to be perfect? We're the Chicago freaking Bears. The offense it's never a perfect situation for the offense. So what are we waiting for then? So so I would play him whenever Matt Nagy thinks he's the best quarterback on the team. And I understand that while we can watch preseason games and see Fields doing all his stuff and Dalton not being super great, there's more to meets the eye than playing quarterback that we don't see in terms of commanding the huddle, play calls, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So maybe Fields hasn't mastered all of that yet, and Dalton has, and that's why we want to wait. And if that's the case, I totally get it. But to me, as soon as Matt Nagy thinks he's the best quarterback, that's when he should play, period. That's what I think.
No, I agree with you, but I want to go back to what you also mentioned about Matt Nagy and not losing his job, and kind of talked something about what Jason was talking about with Ryan Pace. Do you think they're tied to the hip? So, like, if the Bears have a bad season this year, but there's development from Justin Fields to where, it looks like he's going to be the guy, and he's not going to be perfect, but he's showing you the signs that he could finally be that solution at quarterback. And yet the Bears finish, let's say, 4-13 or whatever. So Matt Nagy won't lose his job if the Bears finish 4-13. Does that also mean that Ryan Pace doesn't lose his job, even though we don't have a draft pick until 2030, at least in the first round?
I think the only way they are attached to hip. I think so too. I think in McCaskey, Phillips' mind, I think they're attached to hip. So, but I think if the Bears, two things need to happen, but then they get fired. Well, number one, the Bears need to be bad.
Yeah.
And number two, Justin Fields needs to be bad.
Well, if they're bad on offense, you have to let Nagy go. And in turn, you have to let Pace go because Nagy's the offensive guy.
But what if they're bad on offense and Dalton plays the whole year? Fields doesn't play. They're going to.
There's no way that would happen.
If Andy Dalton's the quarterback for the majority of the season, then the offense is probably going to be bad the majority of the season. Like I don't see a scenario where Dalton's the quarterback and we're an above average offense. Do you? Like,
I'm not an average offense at best. Like that would be the ceiling. That would be the ceiling. Yep. Yeah.
So we're not going to see Andy Dalton play quarterback. He might be fine, but we're not going to see Andy Dalton play quarterback and be like, oh boy, you got to watch out for this Bears offense. Like, these guys are going to put up 30 points on you. Like, we're not going to see that. That's just not going to happen.
You got a game plan for Andy Dalton.
Yeah. So, but it could happen with Fields. Like, if he gets in there and he's really good. Right. So I think, and that's why I think it's more about how Fields looks when he plays than any result, anything that happens with the offense with Andy Dalton at this point in terms of their jobs. Because they put all the eggs in this basket for Justin Fields. Nagy, Pace, they're all in that basket. And he has to do well.
Fields would have to be like awful. You know,
he's got to be Cade McNown.
Right. Right. He'd have to be that bad because even Mitch's, you could at least say, well, Mitch is developing and this and that. So you gave him a longer leash. There's no way they would make a determination after Justin Fields' first season that he's a failure unless he's totally awful. Yeah,
my dad would tell you that Mitch looked like Joe Montana compared to Cade McNown. But
hey, he's got the best passer rating of all Bears in all time. That's got to mean something, right?
But yeah, I agree with you. I think either they need to be really bad or Fields needs to be incredibly bad when he takes the field for them to want to fire both guys. And as much as I am worried about Ryan Pace and I'm worried about Matt Nagy, who's the most important person out of all those three people for the future of the Chicago Bears?
Justin
Fields. Justin Fields.
Right.
So, and the best thing for Justin Fields is continuity. You see, that's the only way that's the way you ruin quarterbacks in the NFL is you change everything on them when they're young. Like, that's how you lose quarterbacks.
But,
so I want him to have continuity. Like,
man, here's the thing, though. If Nagy stays, I kind of feel there's no way Pace goes. And the longer Pace is here, the longer we're going to continue to have these. I've identified a guy. I've got my horse blinders on. I'm going to trade up to get him. We had him rated higher on our board. He really should have been a first-round pick and all this nonsense, because that's in all the time that he's been with the organization, that's who Ryan Pace has. He's proven two things: great at late-round draft picks and great at typically screwing up first-round draft picks. Or second, right, and trading away picks, and now getting injured players, and not doing his homework. All of these things have proven to be true with Ryan Pace, and so I agree. The best thing for Justin Fields is continuity. I still think the jury's out on Matt Nagy in terms of him being a good offensive coach. He's got a lot of people, a lot of staff around him. He's got players now. The offensive line may be in question, but that should, like it said, when is the situation perfect? So he's got to find a way to make the offense better regardless of who's at quarterback. And when it's Justin Fields' turn, he's got to find a way to make sure that arrow continues to go up. I guess I'll do it this way, up. And that's what he's got to do. So I'm not convinced that he's still the right guy. He's still got to prove it in my eyes. Matt Nagy.
So if you think Pace is fired, is there any way Nagy stays? Because then I think
yes. But yes, because the Bears have done that before.
Yeah, and I think that's stupid.
I agree.
I think you can't force a GM to keep a coach.
You're burning a year of that GM's ability to put their stamp on the team.
They did that
because they're tying their hands.
That's why Lovie Smith got fired at 10-6 because Phil Emery didn't hire him.
Right.
So that was like that situation was like a Phil Jackson scenario. Like, Lovie could have won the Super Bowl. He might have got fired because he wanted to hire his own guy. Like, so unless it's like Matt Nagy's best friend from down the street growing up gets hired to be the Bears GM, who, by the way, if he knows football, might actually be better than Ryan Pace. But
careful, because you know about Nagy, and I don't need to remind you.
Oh yeah, there we go.
No, we'll just Photoshop his friend sitting at the table. So.
Yeah, there you go. But he's gonna then you're still laying the foundation to not have continuity for your young quarterback,
right?
Which I think is the most important thing. So the best case scenario, obviously, and what we all need to be rooting for, is regardless of how inept Pace is at drafting, we need this to work out. We need Nagy to be a good coach, because we need to see some sort of foundation that we can build off of moving forward, coach quarterback. It's a very important relationship. So, to answer Mark's question, I'd kind of rather see them go 10-7 and make the playoffs, because that kind of guarantees continuity moving forward for Fields. Like, I don't think if Dalton plays all year, Fields rides pine because the team is doing well, then that's fine to me. Like, that's okay. Then we kick the can down the road one more year with Fields, and he probably is going to be pretty darn good next year when he walks into a team that already looks pretty solid.
I agree with you. It's not like, oh, we got to get the clock starting on Fields' development. No, it's every season, every sport is sacred. And if you got a chance to win and get in the playoffs, then that's what you do. And if it's with Andy Dalton, I'm not going to complain about it.
Like when, people – everyone draws the Mahomes sitting for your comp here, right? Because Nagy, completely natural. People don't realize the Chiefs' offense in 2017, when Mahomes sat the bench the whole year, was top 10. Like, it was a really good offense with Alex Smith. The Bears' offense right now is not going to be top 10. So we were handing – yes, the Mahomes situation was a home situation, but he was handed the keys to, like, a Porsche.
Right.
Like, we're probably going to hand Fields the keys to, like, a Toyota Camry. Tell them to make it. Like,
no offense to any Camry owners out there. Yeah. I don't want anyone getting the wrong impression.
So So of course, I would hope if they go 10-7 with Dalton, that's great because that tells me we're handing Fields a better car when it's his job. Like that's my point.
Yeah. And Mark, you're right. I was the one. Yeah, I didn't hope they backed into the playoffs just because you knew that team wasn't going to go anywhere. It's like everything you saw from that team last year is like they didn't pass the eye test for certain. And also, Mitch never passed the eye test.
Marco's what was different. The Bears also don't have their first round pick next year. They traded it for Fields.
Yeah, that's true too. Right.
Like, so what are we tanking for then? Like, so, right. But they're going to be somewhere in between where Mark, those two records, and Fields will probably play half the year.
Yeah, probably so. Because NFC's tough. That's a tough schedule the Bears have as well, and we'll get into that as we get closer to the season starts. But continuing the Bears conversations, we have the Tevin Jenkins injury news, and then the Jason Peters signing, kind of to replace Jenkins at least temporarily at that left tackle position. I guess until the Larry Borum coronation happens at left tackle. I guess that's what everyone's expecting like today. To happen. Yeah. Oh, is he starting?
I don't know if he's starting, but they say he's going to play today. He's going to play.
Well, because Peters isn't starting. He's not playing today. It's too soon.
I believe Wilkinson is still playing left side.
Okay. But yeah, so Borum should be able to get in. But getting back to the Tevin Jenkins injury, I don't know where to go with this one, Luke. It's like all the talk this week has been about, and we're never going to find out, what did they know? When did they know it? I know Brad Biggs went around. He talked to like 3 scouts around the league to see, hey, did you guys have any red flags on Jenkins coming out? And the 3 scouts that he talked to and 3 different teams said no. But that, that's only a sampling. But there's a reason why he was falling in the draft boards, and he didn't play the rest of the year. He got injured back, and then he decided to sit out the rest of last season. And now, lo and behold, there's a back injury, and the Bears kept doing we tried different approaches. They're getting better. The needle's pointing up. The needle was never pointing up. And then, lo and behold, Nagy has to go out there and announce that he had surgery. Yeah. I don't expect him to be back this year. I think that's pie in the sky when you're talking about a back injury for an offensive lineman. But who knows? But even if he is, what effect is he going to have, let's say, if he comes back week 10?
Yeah. This whole thing is ridiculous. This whole thing is ridiculous to me, and it's stupid. And I'm going to get out of the soapbox here again. The number one thing that pisses me off with the Tevin Jenkins thing is – what in the heck were they hiding?
Right.
Like, he was day-to-day all camp, and then all of a sudden he's out for a year with the surgery. And this is the second time this has happened with the draft pick. Mm-hmm. If you remember, go back to 2015, Kevin White was day-to-day all camp, and then all of a sudden he's out for the year.
Right.
Like what in the heck are we hiding? Like the Bears, with this and with the reporters not being able to tweet out video and all of this junk, the Bears act like they're hiding the nuclear codes or something. You're a football team. Like, you can say whether or not a guy's hurt or not. Or it's okay to tweet out a video of Justin Fields throwing a 25-yard pass to Marquise Goodwin or whatever.
Yeah, like, I want to add to that because some, Bears reporters are thinking this, shroud of secrecy is coming up higher than Ryan Pace. That's BS. You cannot tell me Ted Phillips woke up one day and said, you know what, we got to be more like the Patriots and lock things down. This is all a Ryan Pace orchestrated show. You cannot tell me the Bears organization is telling Ryan Pace not to meet with the media except 2-3 times a year, other than their puff piece they do pregame before the Bears. So again, everything is getting back to Ryan Pace with this. It's a Ryan Pace production. He doesn't take accountability. If you listen to that Matt Nagy press conference announcing the injury and how aggravated he sounded, I think he was aggravated because he was the one going up and had to talk about this. That should be a general manager. When something serious happens like that to Eloy or Luis Robert with the White Sox, Rick Hahn is up front and talking about those things. And he announces it. Same thing that happens on the Cubs side. Same thing with Bowman and the same thing with AK with the Bulls. They're going to be front and center regarding significant news with their team. Ryan Pace just like hides under his desk. He only makes himself available 3 times a year, and usually when he does, it's this I'm excited and blah, blah. You know, it's like the guy aggravates me, and so we're never going to know though if the injury that Jenkins had in college is the same injury he's dealing with now. They're trying to say it's something new. We don't know. No one's going to know. We're never going to find out. All we're going to be able to go on now from this point out, Luke, is when will Jenkins ever be able to take the field? And when he does, how does he perform? That's the only way we're going to be able to measure this. And so it's back to then evaluating a draft pick 3 or 4 years down the road, whether or not Ryan Pace made the right decision. But right now, it already looks like the wrong decision.
Yeah, whenever Ryan Pace gets up there, I mean, he sounds like Cameron from Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Right.
He's got that really like, oh, like
yeah. He does, man. It's like, all right, get off the stage. I don't need to hear you.
Like, I just don't understand. Like, what does this level of secrecy do? Like what? Like, all it does is make everyone more mad,
right?
Because there's no like it doesn't. Who cares if Tevin Jenkins is if people think Tevin Jenkins is out day to day or if he's out week 10? Like it doesn't matter. Like just be honest. That's all fans wanted. Fans want honesty and information. They want you to win, and then they want honesty and information. Like, so if you're not going to win, at least be honest and give us information. Like that's so. Anyway, but in terms of this whole scenario on a micro level with Tevin Jenkins, like, look, who knows? We're never going to find out if they knew about the back thing. Forget that.
Yep.
So he's not going to be here, as far as I believe. Like you, he's got a back injury. He's probably out for the year. So, and don't get me wrong, I think signing Jason Peters is fine. I think we needed to do something. But this reeks to me of Orlando Pace 2.0.
Yeah.
Which, if you guys don't remember, in 2008, the Bears needed a left tackle because Chris Williams got hurt. And they go and sign Orlando Pace off the street, who was all-pro, Pro Bowl, but old tackle from the Rams who was going to the Hall of Fame, much like Jason Peters probably will go to the Hall of Fame.
Right.
And he was an absolute train wreck. He was terrible. I remember the old jokes of put Pace on a Pace bus and ship him out of town. Like I remember people saying that all the time. But so I just hope Jason Peters isn't Orlando Pace Part 2. And that's my concern. If it's very clear that he is crap, once you throw him out there, I would hope they play with Larry Borum or someone who's got young and may have some upside.
Yes.
So, we'll see. And I think we'll probably find out. It sounds like they'll probably play in the preseason game next week.
Yeah.
So we'll start.
Yeah, he should be like no more than a depth piece at this point. If he's playing, if the intention is for him to play season long in place of Tevin Jenkins, I would say then things have gone horribly wrong. Then you invest your time. Then, you get your Larry Borum in there, or whoever, but, make it Borum, I guess, in that particular case.
If his birthday's January 22nd, if Bears made the Super Bowl, he'd be 40 playing the Super Bowl.
All right. Hey, Tom Brady.
Yeah. There you go.
Sandra, what is going on with Tariq? That's a great question, Sandra.
I think they know. Again, the Bears don't say nothing.
Right.
I think they know he's kind of, I don't want to say washed, but I think they know that with his injury and his recovery timeline that they can't really count on him a ton this year.
So what does that mean?
And that is why they signed Damian Williams, I was going to say.
Right, but what does that mean in terms of his roster spot? Are they going to have to put him on the injured reserve come the beginning of the season? Doesn't that mean he has to be on there until week 10?
I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know. Isn't like beginning of the season PUP week 6? I don't know all the rules.
Oh, he's on PUP. That's right. That's right. Yeah.
So I think he may stay on PUP for a while.
Yeah.
And look, I mean, I like Damian Williams. I think he's going to be good. I think he's going to be. He's not as explosive as Tariq, but he's going to be an upgrade over Cordero Patterson in that role last year.
Right.
Like, I think he's a good running back. So I think when Tariq comes back from injury, whenever this is, I think Tariq might have a hard time cracking some time on the field. Like, there's a lot of weapons here now, and he's not going to be as explosive. What I would do, because this team has such a need at returner, based off of what I saw in the first preseason game. This team has such a need at returner that when Tariq came back, I would say, look, we're going to ease you back in, and you're going to focus on returning kicks and punts.
Yep.
And we're going to have you be that role the first couple weeks. You physically can handle that, then we'll work you back into the offense. That's what I would do if I was the Bears, but I'm not the Bears.
Yeah, there's nothing I like better than Tariq Cohen running sideline to sideline for net negative 1 yard gain. So
He does that, but every couple weeks he does that and breaks off like the 50-yarder.
True.
And He also is better than whatever the heck I saw us do week 1 in last week at that position.
There
wasn't a guy that returned a punt or a kick in that game that I want to see ever do it in the regular season.
We were spoiled, though, from Devin Hester time. And even Cordarrelle Patterson was an upfield runner. He wasn't the run sideline to sideline, then figuring it out,
Speaking of Devin Hester, by the way, I don't remember who the player was, but whoever returned the first kick last week was wearing 23. That should not be allowed in the Bears. No one returning a kick or punch should ever be allowed to wear 23 ever again. If you want,
so you're not saying retire the jersey, just that they can't return punts or kicks.
They can't return punts and kicks. number 23 cannot return punts and kicks ever again. If you want to return kicks, you got to change your number. Well, the Bears said they're not going to retire any more numbers
or play cornerback. They can't. I mean, it's like unless NFL starts going to triple digits, Bears can't afford to retire more.
This is we're a completely different topic here, random 1 minute soapbox. What I think the Bears should do in regards to that is they should, like, the best players at those positions, or like the real good team leaders, should be like have that number like bestowed upon them. Like it's like an honor to wear their number.
Yeah.
And Michigan football, though, I used to like Michigan. Now I don't anymore. Mark will remind me of that. But Michigan, I always thought that was cool. Michigan football, like the team captains every year, like wear like a legend's number. Like whoever's like the best DB wears Charles Woodson's number. I think that's legit. So if Roquan Smith wore Dick Butkus's number because he was like the team captain and middle linebacker, I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, and there's where you can honor the players still. But whatever. Okay, moving on.
All right, we're going to move on. Actually, we got to wrap this up here, so let's move into it right now. Love, like, and hate. Mitch Trubisky edition here, Luke. I don't know if I have 3 of these.
I got 3. I was thinking about this today.
All right.
My hate, we always start with the hate. My hate, and these are all moments from the Mitch era. Let's make it clear. Moments from the Mitchell Trubisky era, love, like, hate.
Right.
My hate was the 3rd and 1, or was it 4th and 1? The quarterback scramble play in LA versus the Rams.
Oh.
Where he ran out of bounds instead of going for the first down.
Yes.
That's my hate. And it was at that moment where I put the nail in the coffin that he can never be a good quarterback. Like, it was at that, I'm like, this guy is just not, he doesn't have it mentally together. Like, he can't handle it, he can't do it. It was at that moment. It was a do or die play. He needed a yard and he ran out of bounds instead of running for the first down. Like, that's my hate.
Yeah. Boy, I mean, there's a lot. There's, I think my hate, though, or his press conferences, probably not so much. There was enough to hate on the field, but his press conferences were painful. And look, by all accounts, he's a good guy, good team player, all that, worked hard, studied hard, just couldn't execute on the field. But his press conferences were painful to listen to. And then obviously the turning the TVs off at Hallis Hall, as Mark brought up a little while ago, that didn't bode well for them. So, I would say his press conferences and some of the things from that, it's like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear what you're working on and working to fix that. Just fix it. And he never was able to.
No, 100% agreed. He wasn't the most interesting interview either. That's for sure.
No.
My is the 6-touchdown Tampa game.
Yes.
In 2018, it was when he had that game, I was like, all right, maybe we finally got ourselves a quarterback here. Like, this guy can sling it a little bit. He's good. Honorable mention, is the Dallas game in 2019, when he kind of ran all over the Cowboys defense. But I would go for my true like. I would go the 6-touchdown game versus Tampa, 2018.
Yeah, I think I'd flip-flop those, but they're both like good choices for likes. The Dallas game, just because of the stage that was on,
Yeah.
kind of felt a little bigger, and it was a nice moment for him. But you're right, the Tampa performance was probably like his peak performance with the Bears. So without a doubt, that was something good. So, but I like the Dallas one just because it was on a little bit bigger of a stage. I think it was a Monday night or Sunday night game, and he really showed up for that one. No, it's a Thursday night.
Yeah, it was a Thursday night because I remember Joe Buck calling the game and
Joe Buck. I hate your team.
Troy Aikman's on the Mags versus the Cowboys.
Right. Which Joe Buck doesn't hate your team, everyone. I was just being sarcastic.
Yeah, for sure. My love, and I have a feeling this is going to be yours because you haven't said anything about this yet. And I'll go with the specific moment, like specific play from the game was playoff game versus the Eagles, that 3rd and 10 pass to Robinson to set up the field goal that was missed by Parkey. But anyway, that pass and that drive that he led them down for that field goal in the playoff game, that really made me believe, like, okay, I think we have something here. Like, he's not perfect yet. He's going to be a work in progress, but I think we have a quarterback. Especially that drive and that pass, the degree of difficulty on that 3rd and 10 pass he made to set up that field goal attempt was very hard. And he made a perfect throw in that situation, and I'm just like, that's it. And again, I still can't help but wonder how different if things turn out different for him if Parkey makes the kick. Because the national narrative is he led them down the field to win the game.
Right.
That's what the national narrative would have been for Mitch Trubisky after that game.
Right.
And it didn't happen. So, but anyway, that moment, that pass he made to set up the field goal was my favorite Mitch moment because it was the biggest pass he ever threw for the Bears. I mean, that's for sure. So
I think I have two. So I'm going to include that one because, again, in the stakes of the situation, and being able to put the Bears in a position, to succeed and to win, he did everything he was supposed to do. Time running out, and he made the plays he needed to do. Just that Cody Parkey couldn't finish the deal and double doink, and history was made there. So that one's definitely there. The other thing I love, and you got to admit, his best games were always against the Detroit Lions. Yep. So all the Detroit Lions games were things that when and they they kept playing man to man. When Mitch came to town and he kept chewing them up, so it's like it's whether it's the Detroit coaching ineptitude of Matt Patricia or whoever, it's just like Mitch came to play when he saw the silver and blue out there. He was ready to go. So I loved all his Detroit performances, his performances against the Lions, and then obviously his success that he had in putting the Bears in a position to win against the Eagles. Unfortunately, Cody Parkey could not pull that off. Last thing I want to talk about, since we are bringing up Mitch, because him and the Buffalo Bills will be in Soldier Field to take on the Bears today, and you have that weird dynamic where you have the quarterback of the now versus the quarterback of the couldn't do it in Mitch Trubisky. Please don't boo Mitch Trubisky. It was not his fault he was drafted second. It was not his fault Ryan Pace traded up and gave away draft capital just to move up one spot in the draft. And yes, he has to take accountability for not becoming the quarterback that we thought he was, but it wasn't his fault where he was drafted, that he was overdrafted, and that a lot of teams, including the Bears, overvalued his small sample size of performance at North Carolina. So there's no reason to boo him, though. He wasn't a bad teammate. He wasn't a bad person. He was a stand-up citizen. He worked hard. He put in the effort. He just couldn't execute on the field. If there's someone you want to boo, it's Ryan Pace, but you'll never see him unless he's like peeking out that office door, like that picture that I love.
I agree with you 1,000 zillion%. I also know that they're going to boo Mr. Trubisky.
I know, but I hope it's mixed in with cheers too, and not cheers like cheers to counteract the boos, not cheers like you were a great player type of thing. We miss you, Mitch. It's not about that. It's just like acknowledging that. Thanks, for your performance. It's just something, but you're right. There will be boos because Bear fans, a lot of them by nature are morons. Unfortunately, and sometimes I'm one of them. A lot of times. But I would not boo Mitch Trubisky if I was sitting in Soldier Field today. I'd just be happy to be out in the sun at a Bears game.
I've never understood, and this is a larger thing, and I've told my dad this before. My dad can be a little bit of a booer. I don't think he'd boo Mitch, but my dad, he'd be a little bit of a booer. I don't understand what booing accomplishes. I've never understood that. I don't get it. Like what? Voicing your displeasure? Well, then don't go to the game. That's the best way to voice your displeasure. Is to not go. To me, I will never boo someone unless I feel like they are not trying. That's when I'll boo them. Like if you're not trying, then I'll boo. But like I don't understand what that. I don't understand what that does.
I've had this discussion a few times, and I'm not against booing. If I think it's, I don't want to sound like Tony. I don't want to sound like Tony La Russa, the arbiter of what's sincere celebration for bat flipping and things like that. But here's what I say: like booing Mitch Trubisky today just doesn't make any sense. He's not on a team anymore. It doesn't make any sense.
It's not warranted.
Right.
It's not warranted.
However, as he was with the Bears and he was underperforming, the booing, to me, even if all the fans aren't doing it for that reason, is an audible message to the front office and the coaching staff. Why is this guy still playing? Why is this guy still here? Why is this guy still in the batting lineup? Why is this guy playing goalie? It's if I boo occasionally at games, if I see something that we trot someone out repeatedly and, like Adam Eaton, Adam Dunn, Adam LaRoe, put all the Adams in or whatever. But there's certain players that like they keep getting a pass and they keep getting trotted out there. I don't think I've ever heard Cub fans boo Jason Hayward. Because he
speech.
What's that? Well, he did the speech. The guy's a great, upstanding, his philanthropic activities that he does in the city. So it's like hard to hate him, hard to boo him, although I think he lost some stock with his I'm not vaccinated, don't worry about it, bro. But it's like that would be someone. It's like it's not about, he's not performing. Why do you keep trotting him out here? So you could boo for that. So I think there's a place for booing if you're trying to send a message to the coaching staff and the front office that this isn't working, fix it. And it's not so much directed at the player. And a great example. It's not a perfect example, but Zach LaVine, the All-Star game, and he's sitting up there, and then you're hearing the stuff about, fire guard packs behind him and stuff like that. That's the type of stuff that I'm talking about. Where
all that was warranted.
It is.
Yeah.
But when you get something public like that, if all you hear when they're doing Bears games is booing because the quarterback sucks, or whatever, then, it does send a message that's heard nationally, locally, and it's talked about on the sports talk shows the next day. But you're right. I don't agree with it. It's like if you're booing the player just to boo the player because they're no good versus they're not giving effort, that's misdirected. But I do think you can boo to send a message. The problem is you'll never know what the fan's intention is. But I know what mine would be.
Yeah, and especially when at Soldier Field, when most of the people booing have more drinks in them than they can form a cognitive thought. So
they're not booing, they're boozing, Luke.
they're saying boo earns.
Boo earns. Boo earns.
Oh
my God.
Yeah,
I was saying boo earns.
But yeah, so we'll let you. I know you got to get to
the campus. Gotta be a man of the campus, big man on campus here soon.
There you go.
Yeah, but yeah, please don't boo Mitch Trubisky, right?
Yes, don't boo Mitch Trubisky. You got to get to you're the Justin Fields. You're the big man on campus at IMS.
That's right. Someone's got to carry the mantle. I hope no one boos me when I get there too. Hey, what are you doing there? You don't know how to hold a camera.
Quick, small bit of breaking news.
Okay.
Breaking news sounder. Billy Hamilton sent to Charlotte for rehab.
Okay.
Leading off and DHing today for the Charlotte Knights, Billy Hamilton.
And what was his a quad, an oblique? It was upper body, right?
It was a let me pull an injury out of the hat to bestow this upon you.
Thanks for that nugget of wisdom.
Yes. So I'm not sure exactly what they said it was.
Okay. I thought it was upper body, though.
The White Sox didn't even say what it was when they said he was going for rehab, so they probably don't even remember either. So
oblique.
How do you think that ceremony goes when they do that? Do you think do they pick it out of a hat? Do they ask the player, what do you want to be injured?
Hey, Billy, we're going to have to create some roster space here, so we'll let you decide. Wasn't it Sandra thinks it was an oblique, and I'm thinking it might have been too, but
do you think Billy Hamilton thought oblique sounded cool, so that's what he picked? That sounds cooler than a hand.
I'll take that. Yeah,
I'll take the oblique injury.
Right. Yeah. So oblique it was. He drew it out of a hat. Yeah. Let's go with it. All right. Or no, they have a spinning wheel in the coach's office, and they have all the different random injuries. It's and oblique. All right, let's go with oblique. And there goes Billy. Oh man. Well, good for Billy. And what I guarantee you is going to happen is if he comes back before September 1st, which I'm not sure he will, but if he does, someone else is going to be on the randomizer wall there as far as an injury before that happens. So, but we'll see. I don't know based on rehab assignments if they can stretch it out that long. We'll have to see. But, yeah, so it wasn't oblique. Thanks for confirming that, Sandra. Appreciate that. And don't boo Mitch Trubisky, everyone. So. All right, Luke, great show. Hey, everyone, thanks for chiming in. Sandra, Mark, Jason, Joyce, Marty was on there as well. Did I miss
Jackie,
anyone?
Yeah.
What's that? Jackie. Jackie,
yeah.
Obviously, of course. She gave us a lot of lineup content talk. So good stuff. Thanks. And everyone else who was tuning in and watching, we appreciate it. And then our next show will be next weekend.
Saturday.
Yeah. Where's my graph? I can't find my graphic, our next show graphic. There it is. Next Saturday, 10 a.m. That's when our next show will be. So actually, yeah, no, that'll be correct. It's after that, when we get into Labor Day weekend, we'll have to figure out things because the schedule's looking pretty daunting on September 4th. But we'll figure that out. Our next show will be next Saturday.
Yep. I also will be in Michigan on September 4th.
So we'll probably not have a show, or if no, I don't think there's a way to do it. It's there's too many events we have with IMS, and there's only one of me and one of our several other GAs. So we're going to be all around the place. So anyways, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next Saturday, everyone. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you next Saturday.